Happy holidays, everyone. We've made it past Thanksgiving with only minor wounds from social commentary around the table. Today, I, Brooke, am joined by Ian and Will for a special Bards only edition. Today, we're going to talk about all things holiday season and specifically 2 games that might mend those broken wounds over the wishbone. Today, we'll be talking about Boop, a 2-player game created by Scott Brady that took board game TikTok by storm, as well as We're Not Really Strangers, created by Koreen Odiney, a game built on creating a deep understanding of players. Yes, I am going to make my 2 co-hosts talk about feelings and memories. They're never going to let me live this one down.
Bah humbug.
And probably never going to let me pick games again.
Grinch noise.
Now, guys, both of these games are from big box stores. What were you begging your folks for when you were dragged through the big box stores around the holiday season?
The only board game that I remember begging my parents for one Christmas was that 1313 something Lane murder mystery game.
I wasn't even thinking board games. I was saying in general.
Oh, I was a very food focused kid. It was all like the junk food that I was never allowed to have. So eventually, after screaming enough, they'd give me like the little Debbie cakes, like strawberry shortcakes. Those are good.
See, I only wanted one thing, and it was the Oreos, or not Oreos, but it was like the cookie and cream Hershey's bar. And my grandfather had this thing where, because it was white chocolate and not real chocolate, it was not financially worth it. Like, he had this weird thing of like, white chocolate's not good enough to buy.
Because you're not getting any cacao in it.
That was his reasoning?
I mean...
I'm getting more sugar, though.
I also really wanted Lunchables, and by the time I finally got one, I was so disappointed.
I do remember that. I remember wanting the pizza Lunchables with my dad right after his divorce, and he's like, they're too expensive. And then I got one with my mom, and I was like, wow, this is a disappointment. My dad is right. These were too expensive.
The Wally World ones aren't as... They're like a lot cheaper, and they're not bad.
I'm going to date myself, but this was before Walmart was as prevalent in our lives.
This is fair. I'm just saying, if you want to revisit the subject, I think it's like $1 or like $1.50 for the pizza Wally Worldables.
It's a good thing that there's self-checkout now, because I get weird looks going up for like a
Kid Cuisine. Kid Cuisine. I have not had one of those in a really long time.
They have blue mac and cheese right now in Kid Cuisines.
We getting Kid Cuisine for lunch tomorrow?
I mean, it's right behind you.
It really is.
We have a microwave.
So which one do we want to start with? Because as a Christmas edition, we have 2.
We do. I'm going to say, I would like to save Boop for last, because
Boop scored pretty well.
I had a lot of fun with Boop, and I want to end on the highest note.
Okay. I did want to say something about We're Not Really Strangers off the bat, is that I had such a hard time finding research on this, because usually we get to be lazy and we go on Board Game Geeks. And yes, I did donate to their current Wikipedia style donation bin, because we use them almost exclusively for content. But this one's not on it. And I had to read Vogue and Forbes to get any information on the creator, who is both a photographer and a model.
I mean, I can see why it wouldn't be on Board Game Geek. It is a board game. It is a party game. But you can't, it's not like the kind of thing you can win or be competitive about. I feel like our grading system is unique in how it handles these things and is good for getting an idea of these kind of things. I feel like the way that Board Game Geek would professionally grade a game, this would just fall through. Yeah,
it would throw off their system. Although I like that there's no winners. You know that, though. I'm not competitive.
Good thing we're amateurs.
Do we want to just jump right into it?
Yeah, I think we should jump right into it. This is just a...
I loved the number of players on this. It has different rules set up for 2-player versus multiplayer. I think it went up to 6. Yeah, 6. And I could see it being really fun, but take a lot of time with 6, but it's still paces well enough that I don't see it being a problem.
I kind of similarly, I did give it 3 points for that. I do feel like once you start getting into 6 people, the game may start to drag a little bit, or the only thing preventing you from kind of hammering somebody with questions is the last person cannot be the target of a question. But once you get to 6 people, you could really just kind of hammer one person with, really grill them. I don't think that's the point of this game, but I do kind of see that as a potential thing that would come up.
I mean, that'd be useful if it's a new person in the group.
Fair.
I gave it a 2 out of 4 for a number of players. This is on the party game rubric. Just want to put that out there because we're doing 2 different rubrics today.
Oh, yeah, that's going to get confusing.
I think this is the first time we've had 2 different rubrics for
an episode, yeah. To be fair, there are other games we played that probably should have had 2 different rubrics, but we didn't have the party game out for like apples to apples. So
yeah,
again, amateurs.
We're growing with you.
But for number of players, I gave it a 2. Which in this case is like a half of a full score. I felt that originally the game even specifies that it was meant for 2 players. It does go from 3 to 6 for special rules where they talk about, hey, disregard this or this in the card. If you get this, then don't do it this way. I feel like that takes away from the meaning of the game. If initially for 2 players, you can't do things you would do for multiple groups. But there's also writing portions in this where if you're doing it for like 6 people, that's going to bog things down quite a bit.
Yeah. While we jump into comprehension, I am going to quickly synopsisize the game because we forgot that part, or I forgot that part. I don't host often. We're Not Really Strangers is a communication tool party game. So it gives you questions and gives you activities to help you be closer to the people around you. Let it be friends, partners, or family. And they do have specific editions for different relationships you might have. So that's why there's no winners. For comprehension, though, I gave it a 2. I think not having a board game background for the creator, the rules were overly complicated. Like once we got into it, it didn't seem as hard as they made it sound in the pamphlet. There were just a lot of extra words.
I gave it a 3 for the same reason. I read through the rules and I'm like, I don't understand. I talked to you. I'm like, you're going to have to talk me through this because I don't understand what the setup for this looks like. I don't understand. And it was all right there. So I gave it a 3 for the same reasons. It was technically all there and it wasn't that hard to understand once you had someone go through it with you. But by looking at the rules on the rubric, it was more confusing than it needed to be.
Yeah. I treated it a lot like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, where I read each step. So like we were in phase 1, I read phase 1 again. We were in phase 2, I read phase 2 again. And that helped when you were like breaking it into the level chunks or the phase chunks instead of reading it all at once.
I gave it a 4 for comprehension. I did have 2 people here to explain it to me, but even still, I thumbed through the rule book. It looked relatively simple. I think the levels were really what threw me off the most.
It wasn't too hard to understand. I just felt that it was the rule book had a lot of unnecessary text there. Had they just been like, play this card, do this and that, or maybe put like some fun language in there to describe the process, like Boop did.
You could tell an artist made this who cared very deeply for their game and really wanted you to know exactly how it was supposed to be played. And as someone who's like take what resonates, leave what doesn't when it comes to rules, you could tell they didn't want that type of a person to touch the game.
Which is why I only docked 1 point for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Paraphernalia, my favorite of the party game subjects. The box is great. The construction is great. The cards are really thick and not waterproof, which is kind of a standard for my board, like party games. I like having them be waterproof because like this would be a fun game to drink with, hang out drinking while doing this, but I'd also be nervous about any kind of liquid getting on those cards. They have a notebook and pencils included, but you don't need the notebook or pencils. You can also rebuy the notebook and pencils if you really want to keep supporting the brand, which is kind of cool. So I did give it a 4, even though it's not waterproof.
I gave it a 4 for paraphernalia as well. I felt that the card stock seems pretty decent. It seemed well put together. It had slots for all the sections and levels. All you need for this game, if you run out, is pen and paper, which is very easy to get for any game.
And even then, like outside of the final card, which tells you to write a note for someone for them to read after you've left completely, you could just tell each other your first impressions at the step 2. So like you don't necessarily need paper.
Which I think you do in the 2-player one, right?
It's the same thing. It's the first impressions and then the note to leave with. We didn't, in the multiplayer, we didn't have to write the little final phase of writing a note. I just thought it would be fun. So I kept it in.
So I may have misunderstood paraphernalia a little. I thought this was potential for expansion, so I gave it a 1.5. And I am going to stick with it. I did give it a 1.5 because of all of the games where you could do writing cards, I feel like this is one of the few games where writing in your own content is probably a good way to go. Especially depending on the group you're playing with. In our case, I feel like we would have benefited from it a little bit more just because we already do know each other fairly well. I mean, we've only been doing this for 2 years.
And plus the other friendships on top of it.
Exactly.
We're not just
not like I've known you since middle school or anything. Well,
exactly. But yeah, I like I said, I'm gonna stick with my mistake of 1.5, but it probably should be a little higher.
Well, I'm sneaking a look at your thing, and I think you're good because the part that does talk about it, customization, you filled out right.
Good.
So it just needs to be flip-flop, probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
The score stays the same. We don't have to pause. No elevator music.
That brings us right into setup then. And I give this a 4 for setup. That was incredibly easy. You literally just open the box and hand out some papers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all organized for you already. As long as you've shuffled the deck beforehand, you can just pull this box out and get started.
I mean, I don't even think you really need to shuffle. As long as you put the cards back in random places, you're only pulling what? At maximum 6, 12, 18 cards from all 3 levels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at a maximum of 6 players. But you could.
Or you could be feral like me and just pick it from the middle of the deck.
Yeah.
Because it stood up on its side, you can pick any cards. Gravity's not a factor.
Yeah, so that should open and shut, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Setup 4.
Yeah,
I will give you a sneak peek. Today is probably the easiest setups we've ever had.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Rate of play.
What'd you give it for rate of play, Will?
I gave it a 4. This is one of the fastest games. It doesn't drag. I feel like when we were stopping to discuss our cards, it was in a positive way. It wasn't stopping trying to understand stuff aside from each other. We were just trying to understand each other. This is a very good game. I really like it. And I like I said, rate of play, 4 out of 4.
I'll be honest. I brought this game mostly because I thought we'd get our lowest scores ever. And historically in the Christmas episode, one of us, usually me, get to rip apart a game unlike any other. It's a present for us. And I thought rate of play was where it was going to go all wrong. But it went so well and so easily and so quickly. We added in another round for funsies.
Oh, yeah.
We did level 2 twice because it was just, it flowed nicely. So I can't complain now.
I actually gave it a 3 for rate of play.
Okay.
I think that one of the things you run into with asking people very deep questions about their personal life is that they have to stop and think about it. So there were several times where we're playing and the flow kind of gets interrupted as you ask someone a question like, what was one of the big ones we asked?
Oh, the relationship one was definitely one that I actually had to stop and think really long about.
Yeah.
What was your first love and why did you like them?
Yeah. There's also 2 different writing portions if you do it right. And if you have a lot of players, that's going to slow things down quite a bit.
Shit.
That's staying in.
That's staying in.
Yeah.
So I feel like for the most part it's pretty good, but there are definitely some spots where the gameplay, the pacing kind of slows to a crawl, especially when you throw something like a staring contest into the mix.
We had 2 staring contests. It was epic. I have never seen anyone more competitive about a staring contest in my life. Ian was locked in.
Well, let's be fair. One of them wasn't a staring contest. One of them, he just had to stare longingly into my eyes for 30 seconds.
And it was the most intense 30 seconds of Will's life.
Because Ian took it as a contest.
I had to do it twice.
I think my favorite was when you accused him of like, you have glasses, it's easier. And like without any thought, he ripped the glasses off his face, still intently staring into your eyes.
Ian has a power of will matched by no man.
On what you're saying though, with the rate of play, I could see this now that we're entering our 30s, being a dinner game. Like having people over and like writing portions could be like snack and eaty time, and then go back to it.
Oh, like doing this as like a cocktail hour?
Yeah, like a cocktail hour or a dinner party. That's
great. Yeah.
We might have a fancy dinner party at my house involving this game.
Yeah.
When in doubt,
thinking about the
he's
food.
out.
You must grab all cards. Pinky out.
Pinky. Difficulty curve, I give this a 4. Once you get started on this, there's no real misinterpretations unless you're struggling with the questions on the card.
And I just wrote in as an extra comment, I also gave it a 4. Most of the time with these kind of party games, I do feel like there's a difficulty curve that needs to kind of be in there to keep the game interesting. This was already a very interesting game to begin with. There doesn't need to be any difficulty in it, aside from answering the questions themselves.
I gave it a 2 just because we did have to refer back quite a lot. And we're kind of experienced game players at this point in life. If we have to go back, can you imagine what someone who's just picked this up from Barnes & Noble for the first time would do?
That's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah,
I could feel it'd be difficult for people who haven't had to understand mechanics on the fly. Customization, though, I will say there are so many things on their website, like specific packs and expansions. There's a child one. There's a breakup one, which is a solo game where you kind of coach yourself through your own breakup. This is like if you don't have money for therapy, this is a Band-Aid fix. They have self-care ones. They have couples ones. They have one that's titled XXX, which I am getting because I'm so curious. Like it doesn't say anything but that on the box. And they have hoodies and mugs and a card specifically that says, congratulations on your breakup, which is on sale right now.
'Tis the season.
It is.
It really is. I think that's why there's not much on sale on the website. That's one of the things that's currently on sale.
That is telling. I gave it a 3 for customization. I feel for the most part, it has a lot of options, a lot of different types of styles of the game. That's great. As far as I could tell, there were no blank cards. I think that's what I subtracted a point for, because this would do really well with a few blank cards, I think.
Yeah.
It's not too difficult to do. I feel like you just print a few extra cards and pop them in the back with level 1 or level 2. I think that. I don't know if there's things you could do for like level 3, but they have
I'm sure
a ton
you
of
could.
stuff. Yeah,
I'm sure you could. It is about, for the artists out there, the thickness is probably a little bit thicker than Bristol board, but you could probably get away with using Bristol board to make your own. It would just be a pain in the ass. And they don't have blank cards as an expansion yet.
and if you're someone like me, I don't know what Bristol board is, so.
Is that like card paper?
No, it's like as thick as my watercolor paper, but without a tooth, so it's flat. It's usually used for markers and inking.
I'm real quick. Why does your paper have teeth?
And you're people like me and Will who don't know what this word is.
This is Art Corner with Brooke. Tooth is the texture of a piece of paper. So when you use watercolors, you need a tooth for the paints to kind of settle into.
Mm-hmm.
Think about like how your molars are, like that bumpiness.
Is that what embossing is?
No.
I have no idea. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So that does create a texture, but it's just paper. It's the way the pulp pills on top of each other. So it
with a rough surface, it absorbs more water.
Oh,
yeah, and the pigments have a place to settle into better, so that it has a better light fastness.
Like imagine trying to I kind of get what you're saying. Trying to use watercolors on a laminated piece of paper, it wouldn't work.
No,
is that where? Am I right?
It will. So it will still work either way because paper is absorbent. It will just last longer if you use a watercolor paper with a tooth.
I was not right.
It's also different in how many pounds of pressure it takes to make the paper.
Oh, and that's why it has like that pounds for like certain art. Okay. Will's learning stuff today.
Ian's pretending to know things today.
This is Art Corner with Book. Back to our actual thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I need to have a whole different podcast where I can just blow your mind with art stuff. This isn't the time.
So,
did you like it?
I did for the most part like it.
You were very apprehensive when I was like, "Hey, let's play this feelings game."
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from a feelings game. I'm not always the most open person with deeper stuff. Like on surface level, I'm happy telling you what's going on. But when you started asking me about familial problems and relationships, I'm like, pass. That said, I gave it 2.5. I had a decent amount of time with it. I was a little upset that there was nothing to win. The half point is for the staring contest that I did win.
He's goal oriented.
I know.
We'll give him that. He's goal oriented.
You can write that on my next sheet.
First impressions. Goal oriented.
Oh my god, like a Labrador Retriever.
The amount of times I said, the prize is the friendship. Winning is the friendship at the end. And just the flat looks of no from you.
I didn't want to say it, but I couldn't get the look off my face.
See, this got a 4 for me. I am a nosy person. I want to know people. I want to share way too much. So this is my kind of game. I gave it a 4. I'm getting more versions of this now.
I would also like to get more versions of it. That being said, I did give it a 3. I feel like if I were in any group that I did not know nearly as well as you guys, I would not be nearly as comfortable playing this game. It takes me a while to warm up to people, and I feel like having to answer these questions to complete strangers would break me.
See, I'm always uncomfortable. So that doesn't faze me in the slightest. I'm bringing this on the cruise in hopes that I can play it at the LGBT meetup because it'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch the world burn is my favorite thing. It's chaos. That scare you?
It did. It did scare me a little.
That being said, though, I did only give it a 2 for recommendation because it is daunting. If you're not really interested in really digging deep for yourself and others, it's not going to be a game for you. I do hold that it would be good if you have with your family, if you have a hard time connecting and finding that common ground with family, this might not be the worst thing to try and show that each other is human. Because a lot of the times when you get into arguments, especially with political undertones or religious undertones, you forget the other person's a human being.
There are cards in here that will start fights.
You can take those out.
I think one of the cards I pulled when I was looking through the game was, what was the last lie you told your mother?
So take it out. If you know you're going to play this with your family, just go through the cards quick. Because other things, what's the first recollection of happiness? Might be an important reason why Uncle Bobby really is into Roman Catholicism. Maybe he got a really nice cross for his first birthday.
Yeah, because if that card came out at one of my family gatherings, I can tell you my mom would not be happy with the answer she got.
I don't think any of our moms would be happy. I do want to point out, I'm not going to say what yours or my answer was, but I do love how it both revolved around the holidays.
I gave it a 3 for recommendation. I think it's for $15 to $25. It's not a bad purchase. I feel like there are people who could get some fun out of it, especially at like family gatherings and stuff. Especially people who normally don't play board games, who don't like the competitive edge of things. It's just fun. So yeah. I have no.
I think it's
no qualms about it. I recommend it more than I enjoy it.
Well, and honestly, that's kind of in my boat as well. I know I'm not a normal person. I'm more reserved than a normal person.
No, I think I'm the odd man out here.
Staring contest.
No more staring contests.
That made you really uncomfortable.
Yes, eye contact is uncomfortable for me. I don't like doing it. I don't mind it, but
I don't like it either.
30 seconds is so much.
Okay, let's just break that down. I don't like it either unless I am winning.
Yes. Yeah.
If I win,
you don't have the dig deeper card.
I will say the dig deeper cards are also they're like a plastic see-through card. They're very gimmicky. We naturally just asked each other to dig deeper without having to throw down a dig deeper card. It's really for the Instagram photos, that dig deeper card, because you can like do fun little selfies with it. But
we all nervously overshare.
Oh yeah. I don't know. For me, it's not nervous oversharing.
I nervously overshare.
Oh, I just want people to understand, so I expand. I don't want any confusion after the things I'm sharing.
I just say things.
Replay value.
Pretty high.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 2. I feel like one of the things for multiplayer was that you take the card you write home with you, which means that in replay wise, you're not playing this multiple times a night. You're playing this once a night and then it goes away and then you bring it out at the next family gathering. For me, that's like 3 times a year at most.
Now, I will say we are all transitioning into later adulthood, middle-aged, let's call it, unfortunately.
Don't remind me.
I know.
I'm going to stay young forever.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm still 22. No, I'm
with your cholesterol, yeah. But I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing. Especially as we get older, we probably transition less from doing D&D nights on Tuesdays or whatever. Not that we've done that in a while, but we probably...
Not all of us.
Well, not all.
Oh, I have every Friday.
But even still, I feel like we're going to probably slowly transfer into like game night once a week or once a month. And this is a good game to kind of start a game night out. It's relatively quick. It's relatively easy. It helps you get to know the people that you hang out with every day. Replay value, I gave it a 3.
I will say I look at replay a little differently. For me, it's how many times am I going to take this box off my shelf? Because there's some games that I'm going to get tired of very quickly. But with this, it changes with every group that you bring it into. Because, yeah, you may have answered the same question 5 times already, but you didn't give that answer to the new person at the table. So depending on who your group is, depends on... It just makes so many new scenarios. So I think, like, when I look at replay and why I gave it a 4 is I can see myself playing the game with the same group many times and also play it with new groups for many years before it starts really becoming cyclical.
And then once it starts becoming cyclical, get an expansion.
Yep. I think I'm going to get you the kids box, though, so you don't have to be as deep.
I would like to play the kids version.
We'll take that out for my family. I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't really do as many of these gatherings. My family is admittedly a little dysfunctional to the point where I don't mind saying that on a live mic because I know they're all going to agree. But I feel like it's great for other people. It's just not something I would get a lot of worth out of, which is why I gave it a 0 for would you buy this for yourself. I would not personally buy this game.
Fair. I just to tie into would you buy it for yourself, since we nicely transitioned into that.
Yeah.
Well, now we didn't because you mentioned it.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Did you say your thing?
No.
I feel like I just cut you off.
No, I was just saying that he said He did a smooth transition, then you mentioned it, so it's like negated.
Oh, because I'm bad at my job. Gotcha.
ADHD.
Yeah. I gave it a 2. I am going to say that's a caveat. I probably would not get this version. I think I would get something that's more geared towards our polycule. I think this would be a great game for our relationship, especially because I can play it with 3 people, and most couples games are focused on 2 people. It's very progressive.
I wonder. I'm curious because they do have a couples edition. If the couple edition does have a multiplayer, I mean, you could still just eke over this into that. But like, if it's in the booklet has a multiplayer,
Only one way to find
I
out.
know. Well,
I was
I'm
going for
planning
the
on
X,
buying
the
it,
triple X.
I wasn't going to say that on mic. But yeah, obviously.
It's already in the cart. I will be honest. There's like $70 worth of these games in my cart right now. That being said, I would buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As something I just off the cuff decided to get at a Barnes & Noble on their board game sale, I think it's a good investment.
Yeah. So final scores for We're Not Really Strangers. I gave it a 30.5.
I gave it a 35.
I also gave it a 35.
Hey!
So that puts our scores at
32 and a third.
Totally not just stretching this out so we can do this on our phones.
How
and
close was
calculator.
I?
33.5.
Wow, okay. I'm not that close, but I'm pretty impressed.
Which is not a bad score. Overall, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think.
That's a pretty good score. So not bad. It looks like we're gonna have a decent grading for this Christmas, which is weird.
It's
Christmas
abnormal.
miracle.
I mean, Max isn't here, so it's already a little weird.
Yeah,
This is also, I think, the first time we've had a Bards only edition.
it
Because
is.
the only other time we had a Bards only edition was the Lost pilot episode.
Technically, 10 Candles was a Bards only edition because the person we had on as the guest wasn't there for the recording.
This is true. Okay, but
We did read their
true.
grade score.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first true other than
Yes.
pilot.
Who was the guest for 10 Candles?
Connor.
Oh, that's right.
Well, no, technically he was a bard at the time,
Yeah.
so it was a Bards only edition.
Yeah, that's fair. It was Chris was on with us in that one, right?
Yeah, and
Chris was also a bard.
like an official bard, and then work.
If he wants
Yeah.
to come back, he still technically is.
Yeah, I don't think we can take away bardship.
No,
No.
it's like a knighthood.
Yeah, we come with the dice and just pour them over your head.
It's really a fancy ceremony.
It hurts. I got a D4 in my eye. So going on to our next game, Boop.
Can we take
I was wondering,
2
since-
minute real quick?
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually quiet enough that I can hit it without.
No,
I'm not
No.
going to. I'm not going to. But
We have one rule.
I know.
Well, actually, we have a few rules. No
Yeah.
eating either.
Yeah.
All of these are to prevent Will from fucking up the office.
No, the no eating is for Steven.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Will, you'd be impressed with me.
Oh,
Guess how late I stayed out until on Saturday?
1:30?
4 a.m.
Woo!
I haven't done that in a long time.
I haven't either. No, I haven't either.
I don't think I've done that since college.
I went to after hours Andy's house after. It's fun. We played cards.
Oh no, Larry's. One of the nights I did at Larry's. I think when I came back at like 5.
You want a game that'll get us a low score? Da Vinci. I've had to watch people play Da Vinci before.
We should do 5-card stuff.
I mean, that could be our April Fool's Day tends to be like a ridiculous game, so we could do that. Or you ever played Michigan poker, Minnesota poker?
Cover solid.
It's like a penny poker.
Ooh. We should, yeah. You know what? I think while we're still in intermission, I really think we should do just a collection of random card games. Just graded deck of cards.
I've considered. I'll be honest. I was thinking about it in the shower today. I'm like, what would be a ridiculous game we could cover that's actually surprisingly like really big?
Yeah.
And my first thought was like solitaire because it's a one-person game that pretty much everyone has played. If you grew up in the 2000s, it was on every single computer you ever knew. And people play it competitively. Like, weirdly competitively. So a single-player game.
We're so wrong.
Yeah.
That's so long. Not wrong.
I think that'd be a good April Fool's Day. Maybe this year.
You ever played 51 Solitaire?
I have not.
51 Solitaire is a game that will drive you insane. It is solitaire unwinnable because you don't have enough cards.
You're missing one card.
Exactly. I've seen people play that, and it's like seeing the monks do the sand drawings because they put so much work in and then gone.
All right, so we're taking a break and then doing boop.
Yeah, give me one more puff and we should be good.
Get your nicotine rush. We're making good time.
Oh yeah. What time is it?
8.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we're doing great.
Hey, Ian, you really liked this game. Do you want to sum it up in like one sentence and see how it goes, and then I will fill in the rest of it?
Yes, it is cat checkers. Because cat checkers is the best way I could describe it.
I think calling it checkers is doing it a disservice. This is full-blown cat chess.
Yeah.
So, Boop is a 2-player game where you have kittens to start with, and you are jumping on a bed. The best part is the bed is actually fabric. So it has a little squeeze to it. But the idea is like, think of the fluffiest comforter you've ever seen at your grandma's house. And what happens when one cat jumps on? It falls to the side. So it's a game where you're constantly moving yours and other people's pieces around the board while trying to grow your kittens into cats and get 3 in a row.
As a side, this is done by Smirk and Dagger, the publisher. I am a little biased on that. I've met the owner of the company several times. I didn't pick the game, by the way. It just was total coincidence that Brooke picked this up, and I was like, "Oh, I heard about that game." The guy that I know made that game. I love a lot of their stuff, and this is no exception. This is the first time we played a game where I was like, I want to do another round before we record.
Yeah, this is also probably the first Smirk and Daggers that I've picked up at a large store.
Mm-hmm.
Although I know Hughes and Q's is also, which we are going to cover just to torture Will. They aren't normally in stores outside of like specific game board shops.
I think I've seen Nevermore out on shelves before a while ago when it was out.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I didn't realize Nevermore was them until maybe a couple seconds ago.
Yeah. Nevermore, Menace Among Us is my favorite game of theirs. Tesseract, Shobu are all games that I really enjoy from them. Run for Your Life, Candyman, or something like that is a game that I know is popular, but I've never played. Menace Among Us is like my favorite game.
Yeah, and that was...
We haven't. I've talked about it. It's if we cover it, I want to do it. I mean, we've all played it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've definitely played Menace Among Us. I think we did it at... You know what? Don't worry about it. But we will play Menace Among Us, but I want to do it with 8 people as God intended.
It's going to be
really accurate.
It's going to be the worst mic up setup in the world as we all pile around.
We'll have a bigger room now.
This is true.
And I don't think this was any exception. We want to roll right into this?
Yeah. Number of players I thought was perfect. I cannot imagine playing with more than 2 people because of just how much movement happens on the board. If you had another person on that board, I don't think it would work.
I gave it a 2 of 3 out of principle.
We do like big board games here.
We do like big board games. It is set at 2 players, and that's good for the game. Don't get me wrong. Like it has to be 2 players, but because it has to be 2 players, I don't get a lot of opportunities where it's just me and one other person playing a board game. Usually it's at least 3 people, and something like that's I wouldn't be able to pull out with someone else feeling left out. But it is quick, so you can always play around with different people. I had to take a point somewhere.
Yeah.
No, I do think that because it's a set number, it doesn't deserve a 3 in number of players, but it's a good score still.
Normally, I'd agree with you. I would say this would be a 2-pointer. I think it's a 3-pointer, mainly because it makes no claim to be anything greater than what it is. It's a 2-player game, just like chess and checkers, and you can't really dock points from chess and checkers. Now, that being said, you do have Chinese checkers. That could add some more plays. I could see doing something like that and making it crazy complicated, but then we'd end up docking points all across the board somewhere else because it becomes way too complicated, and I feel like it would bog the game down.
As it says on the board game, it says, a very thinky game for 2 clever cats.
It doesn't make you think you can do anything but 2. It's plastered on every side of the box. It's very clear.
Yeah, like I said, it's more out of consideration, considering all of the other games we played.
Inclusivity.
3. You could give this game to a young child, and they'd be able to pick it up pretty quick, I think.
Also, the meeples are a big enough size. That's sometimes the problem, is that, like, dexterity and fine motor wise, sometimes meeples or the little tokens get very small and very thin, but these are nice chunky boys.
They are really nice chunky boys.
They're also wood.
I did dock a point. I feel like the base game itself is very simple on its face. I feel like if you are getting matched up against somebody like an Ian, who is very strategy focused, it's very easy to fall into traps at times. And I feel like because this game does rely on the skill of the player and less the rules of the game, it may be challenging if you were going up against an older brother or something like that. Somebody who's maybe had 2 or 3 more years for their brain to develop. I could see that quickly becoming a game where you will never win.
As the oldest sibling, I've never had to run into this issue.
I know. It shows, Ian.
There's no luck, all strategy on this one.
Exactly.
For comprehension, though, I did give it a 2 just because reading the pamphlet, it kind of bogs at times. So it does make it a little trickier on that aspect. They did give you pictorial things to look at, which was very helpful. And the little satirical quips definitely helped. But like, we were definitely confused on if we took cats and kittens off the board at first, like, or if the cats just lived there. It did take us a couple read-throughs to truly understand where the cats and kittens go.
I gave it a 3 for comprehension, mainly because I only looked at the pictures in the rulebook and I watched the game, and I feel like I was already kind of on board with everything that was going on. I'm pretty sure when you two were playing, I asked like 3 questions to clarify, which is, if you've watched any other Bards, is very few questions for Will to ask about a game.
Yeah.
I gave it a 3 for comprehension as well. I read through the rules. It didn't seem once we got the hang of it, it didn't seem too complicated. There was that one question of, do the cats stay on the board when they switch over? And it did say further down, it said, do not do that. So because I was suspicious. I'm like, wait a minute, how could 3 cats stay on the board? But then you win if you have 3 cats in a row.
Yeah.
So we caught onto it pretty quick.
Yeah, like for the same reasoning I took points off for it on the last one. We are very used to reading rule books at this point. So if we have any questions, most people would have many questions.
I make it my business to usually go through a rule book at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Availability. You can get this just about anywhere, right? You got this at Barnes & Noble.
I got it at Barnes & Noble. I've seen it. I think I've seen it at Target. The holiday edition is no longer available because it's a holiday edition. But other than that, I
think it's still on their website.
On their website.
Yeah.
Every other website, it is now as a reseller. So Walmart has it as a resale for the Halloween edition, but Walmart also has a resale for everything now. If it's in a big box store, it's usually pretty
accessible.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 for that reason. If it's in a bookstore, it's everywhere else. I don't go to bookstores very often, so I'm just believing what you say.
It's my favorite time of year. Do you want to know why?
Why?
I have 2 chances to talk about materials. So, breaking down into it, beautiful box, great construction on the box. It actually has storage, and like storage that works and makes sense. And I know they didn't mean to, but the storage could also be used for custom little meeples if they ever come out with it, which they should. So the box is set up beautifully. It stores nice. It's simple and compact. The little wooden guys are perfect. The paint on them is amazing. They have great detail on the paint, which isn't shocking with wooden meeples compared to I'm saying the word a lot because I love it.
It's a great word.
It really is. But with plastic, it's often hard to paint them. But because the wooden ones are usually flat, they get a greater level of detail in the colors, which I enjoy. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, I mean, I gave it a 3 for materials for like you mentioned, a lot of the same reasons. I don't want to go too much into other categories when I do one category at a time. But considering this is like $35 on their website, and you're getting wooden meeples, you're getting 32 wooden meeples in total. You have a quilted board.
It's soft. It's
It's actually fat.
Feels like a bed, but it doesn't actually shift the meeples when you move too much.
It's batting in nylon too, so it would also be quite waterproof. It would just take maybe a couple minutes to dry if, say, you spilt your hot chocolate on it.
And a very nice box.
Ooh, also a fun part of the box, the inside box flips over to hold the little quilt and looks like an actual bed. So detail.
It's something I've always really liked about Smirk and Dagger is they go above and beyond usually for their accessories and materials. Like with Tesseract, I haven't played the main game. Kurt came through our local gaming store, and Brooke and I had a chance to play test that game that's coming out. And they had these really cool like metal dice structures for this huge cube. It was very intimidating looking, and I'm actually probably gonna at some point pick that up too.
Yeah.
But they've always been pretty on point with their materials.
I will say though, it's a little disappointing. The cat on the box is not the cat you get in the box, which is why I'm wondering if they are planning to make expansions where you could get, say, the adorable little spotted cat.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to ruin the cat on the box for everybody here. That it just reminds me of Hamtaro.
Oh, well, I mean, the figures are very Hamtaro-esque, like even the actual ones.
You see it too, right?
Yeah, no, that was one of my favorite shows growing
It's like
up.
Pusheen.
Yeah, it's also Pusheen shaped. It's friend shaped. That's all that matters. So
any comments on materials?
You guys have said pretty much everything that I was thinking for materials. Fantastic box. The meeples are awesome. I would like to see at some point just blanks come out, and I would paint them however I want. I think that would be really cool. But aside from that, I can't dock any points. Solid 3. More games need to do stuff like this and put quality into not just their packaging, but into their tokens as well.
Because they could have just done flat tokens and it would have been the same game. But
even still, you could have done flat tokens and then just had them flipped printed on both sides.
Yeah.
Saved a ton of time and money. But they chose to do a higher quality.
I think that's just Smirk and Dagger, though. They take pride in the community aspect that they create.
I mean, I just wanted to point it out because, like, you get stuff like that out of like Arcane Academy and
and
a few other games we played, but it's few and far between the companies that are willing to go the extra mile on their accessories, like what Cosmic Encounter did with the ships. So worth pointing out.
Oh yeah, the stackable ships.
Those live in my mind rent free. So with setup, this is probably my favorite setup because I literally just tip the box upside down. It's a board and 2 baggies of cats. And in reality, you don't need the baggies. They could just be a box of cats.
Mm-hmm. As nature intended, boxes of cats. Yeah, I gave it a 3 for setup too. It was incredibly easy. We played 3 games of this overall, which is more than we usually do for any of our games we cover. Granted, it was because it's a 2-person game and we had 3 people, but even so, we ended up doing an extra game for the winners.
Yeah, and it was a great game. Yeah, I don't think we've, aside the 2 games that we picked today, setup is crazy easy.
Yeah. It saved a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'm in charge. Oh.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
No, you wouldn't steal my thunder because I'm just not used to being on this side of the mic. So we did set up rate of play. It's a 3. Like you said, we got through 3 games of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing.
I did give it a 2 for rate of play. Especially with that 3rd game. When things get intense, it does bog down a little bit when people are making decisions, and it slows down a lot towards the end of the game. Definitely. I mean, as it's supposed to, but it does affect the pacing at certain points as people are looking at their options, making decisions, trying to figure out a strategy to counter someone else's. Any strategy game, you're going to have difficulties with pacing occasionally.
You know what would be fun but overkill? Chess timers.
I was actually thinking about that. I was like, what would make this game fun and anxiety inducing? And I'm like, a timer. Like one of the little hourglass.
Oh, not even. Have you seen chess timers?
No.
So they're 2 little clocks. They're little, not, what are the things that coaches hold?
Stopwatches.
Stopwatch. They're like 2 stopwatches where you click a button at the top. So you click to start, click to stop.
Because cats don't think about what they're doing before they do it. They do it impulsively. So should you.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, not that wasn't for you. I know which person out there is hearing this, and that was not for you.
Be like a cat.
No. Some of us need to be cool, calm, and collected right now. Staring deeply at this. Okay.
I don't know what I did.
Because someone's going to go, oh yes, be like a cat, and just drive off the road right now. Let's be honest. Most of the people listen to this while driving.
Don't drive off the road. Like, knock over a cup.
No, Will. That's so. The Mountain Dew would make such a noise.
Cats do things to make things uncomfortable for others, not to hurt others or themselves. They just like being irritating, and they love the attention.
I do like the attention.
I would say this is probably the most worth it for price that I've ever paid for a game.
Oh, for sure. What was this? 35 on the top end?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is still cheaper than most of our games and higher quality than a lot of games.
Yeah, I gave this a 3.
That cannot be underlined more. Like it's very good quality from the games we've gotten so far.
I really wish I could give it a 4 for price. I really wish I could give it a 4 in a lot of these sections, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say on price on that one. It's pretty straightforward, right? We're all 3s.
Oh,
Yeah, 3 across the board.
Going into extras then. This is the lowest score they got from me, just because there are no extra pieces. They have the special edition Halloween game, so I gave it a 1. There's not a whole lot you could do other than like special editions or different pieces, or like you said, paintable pieces.
I gave it a 2 in the hopes that they do more. Like even with the Halloween edition, they added a new mechanic with the ghosts. I could definitely see us having little packets of cats with a card that says their new function or their new thing, and like get to add that component in. So you could come with your own baggie of special boop cats that do a special thing.
Yeah.
And also I do want the paint your own Doodlebot version. What was it? What was that bear called from our childhood? Was it just Doodle Bear?
I think so. Oh! Yeah, I think they were Doodle Bears.
Okay, I could see a Doodle Bear version where it was like, it came with a little set of markers and you got cats and like white, and you could like make your own cats.
Was it the stuffed animals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew it yourself and then you washed it off in the bathtub and did it all over again.
I had a green one that looked like Frankenstein.
I just saw them in commercials. I didn't ever have one.
I had a denim one.
That's so cool.
Well, it just was denim patterned. It wasn't actual denim.
It's still really cool.
Oh, yeah. It does stain after a while, though. I learned that the hard way.
No, I also learned that the hard way. My Frankenstein one looks like Frankenstein because it's stained really badly.
Enjoyment? A 3.
Trace.
3. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this.
I feel like the next thing is the same. Recommendations, a 3.
Oh yeah, big 3.
Yeah, a 3 again.
Now I will say, if we're gonna move down to replay value, this is one that I have to change. And I filled this out before the second game. I gave it a 2 initially. After replaying it with somebody who also had gone through the game once, this should be a 3. The level of not skill, but tactics that need to develop and strategy that is able to develop, especially mid and late game. It really is one of those games where you could play it 2, 3, 4 times in a night and get a different result every time.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I actually did the same thing. I wrote down a 2, and then we covered the second game, the one we covered first in the podcast, and then we were like, oh, we have plenty of time still. Hey, Will, you want to play another game? That was a good call, because not only did the as everyone understood the rules of the game, the difficulty kind of went up a bit as it was all or nothing for us. We were really into it.
Yeah.
But you could probably play this several times, and I recommend if you play this once and you're like, maybe this isn't for me, play it a second time. See if you like it then, because the stakes get higher.
They really do. It tickles all of those competitive parts of my brain. I'm all about it.
I just like making the boop sound, because it is highly encouraged to boop and meow.
Yeah, that
boop,
is fun.
Boop.
Every time you move a piece. Boop. Boop.
Same way they usually meowed when the piece was falling off the bed.
Oh.
Like Mufasa.
Sad.
Long live the king. It's a good thing lions don't meow. A lot more people would die in lion attacks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's friend-shaped, and it sounds like a friend.
It sounds like a friend, it looks like a friend, but why no friend?
But now I don't have an arm. Sliding scales. Classic versus innovative. I give this a classic 3. This is a pretty straightforward game. It's not particularly reminiscent of anything in particular. It's a little bit like chess. It's a little bit like Connect 4. It doesn't really involve piece movement as much as moving pieces, if that makes sense. It's unique, but it follows a very simple, classic style of game.
That's why I gave it an innovative. All of those words, but I went, that's new. I haven't done that before.
I gave it a 1 in classic for similar reasons. I think it checks a lot of boxes of classic playstyles while not sort of nicely fitting into one of them. You do have the strategy from chess. You do have the sort of line drawing of Connect 4 in there. It takes the best of a lot of classic games and merges them together. I do feel like that is a limitation of the sliding scales that we have, because it should really be 1 point in classic and like another point in innovative.
See, I always just saw it, is it classic in a good way or classic in a bad way?
Yeah, that's kind of what I looked at it as too. Or like a 1 in class would be like, I've done this so many times and I don't want to do it again.
The way I've always done this is in my brain, I take this line and I make it a vertical line, like an alignment thing.
Oh, okay.
So
that's the great thing about this. We all take it different ways, and it kind of keeps us even and fair.
Exactly. One day I would like to see if we could do an alignment thing. Just see how complicated that makes everything else.
Oh, so
you gotta use YMX plus B to figure out your grade.
We'll do that as a joke when Steven comes on next.
Oh, that would be so fun.
I gave it a simple 3.
Yeah, simple 3.
Just because it was very easy to pick up. It didn't have a lot of rules once you got past the pamphlets issues. It was easy. It was simplistic in a way that, like you said before, a kid could do it with you.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it a complex 1. Because there is a huge amount of strategy to it. It looks like a very simple game at first, once you get into it, though, especially with the booping mechanic, where you're essentially pushing cats around to then make lines to block them from getting pushed further, all while battling somebody else and pushing their cats out of the way. It grows.
Or baiting them into other moves.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a really good one. I did not see that at the end. That was a great bait. But that's exactly what I mean, is there's a lot of things you got to think about in this game.
It would be interesting to see the difference in play style between like two 10-year-olds playing this, a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old playing this, and then two 20-year-olds like turning this into Duel of the Fates, but with cats on a bed, which would be a great parody of the Star Wars Duel of the Fates at the end of Episode 3. You've lost me, Anakin. I am the high ground.
The fact that works so well as an analogy is scary. Oh my god.
But this was a very well put together game, and I can see why you said it's become rather popular.
I've seen this a lot on board game TikTok because I am on TikTok way too often. I think my favorite was a couple who constantly reviews games. They do chores based on it, so they'll pick a game off their shelf and talk about a chore they don't want to do, and then compete to do that.
I know those people.
Yes.
Yeah,
So they've used this game several times. I don't remember their handle. If I can find it, I'll put it in our show notes. But there are a lot of great people on board game TikTok that have talked about this game even briefly.
All right. So final scores.
40. It's the closest we've ever gotten to the meaning of life.
35.
35. I gave it a 38. Which gives us a score of 37.5, a little over for our final score.
That's solid.
Yeah, that's one of the better scores we've ever had.
Yeah. We're getting to that point where we might actually get a true 42.
Yeah.
This probably could have done it with just a couple
of tweaks, and this game would have equaled the answer to the universe, life, and all things.
Was it Wingspan that got the 41?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It got a 41 from someone. I don't know if it got 41 as the average.
Okay, that's right. What was our average again?
Average 37. For this is a little over 37, or 37 and a half.
Huh?
Just writing some notes on it.
Yeah, but that's a very good score.
Yeah.
For our score system that really is just there for us to make conversation, it doesn't mean a whole lot when you average things out. It's a very good score.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think the average is necessary. It really kind of gives an idea of the spectrum of gameplay. I think
we are all wildly different in what we enjoy in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly that.
I just mean our number system. 42 is a weird number to have. It's a grading score. I love it.
No, it's not. It's the meaning of life.
It's a fantastic number. And it honestly, it's not as random as you think about it, because a 1 to 3 is actually a pretty good range if you think about it. 42 just isn't.
Okay, I will be fair. When we made this scale, after we accidentally made it 42, every scale after I have made to be 42.
Oh, believe me.
Mostly because I love that movie.
I'm well aware.
Oh, yeah, with our So what you didn't see when he was pointing at it is would you buy it is a 1 or 2 on the party
game scale. We have 10 questions that are 4 points and then one that's 2.
Well, it's a good running joke, okay? I love that movie. I love the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hitchhiker's Guide is the great equalizer.
Honestly.
Well, as we're starting to close out, so long and thanks for all the fish.
Well, the holiday season is always a busy one, so let's put a bow on this. Thank you all for an awesome year. I'll keep it brief, but I just wanted to say thank you to our listeners. In this season of gratitude and happiness, I think everyone at this table would like to let you know we are grateful for you. Creating this podcast for you has brought us together, and being able to make meaningful content to a community we love has been a pleasure. No matter what you are celebrating, we hope from the bottom of our hearts you have a fun, safe, and happy wrap to this holiday season. Play on.
Thank you, everyone, and don't forget your towels.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you okay?